Hello YouTube, this is a Satsu 5 and today we have a double feature. I decided to review both of these knives in the same video because they're so similar. They're a little bit different, but they're similar. They're both case trapples. One of them is a case mini trapple and one of them is a case full-size trapple. And we'll get into the specifics here later. But anyways, I want to go ahead and say I'm not very familiar with reviewing slip joints. I'll try to do my best job. I'm usually into the tactical knife scene, but I did a little bit of research and I think I'm ready to handle this job. So let's get started. Like I said, both of these are trapple models. This is the mini trapple, this is the full-size trapple. Let's get started on the blade steel and that kind of stuff. The blade steel is a stainless steel. I think it's called a True Sharp. It's not the best steel in the world as far as edge retention. Of course, I was pretty rough on these knives. I basically use them as steak knives, which rubbing them on a ceramic plate is going to dull them. But good news is they're very easy to sharpen. I'm not the best knife sharpener in the world, and I found these to be very easy to sharpen. And they get razor sharp. This top mini trapple is, I think it's called the Religious Saying Trapple, and it cost around $41.92 for $41.92 on Amazon, and it's called the Religious Saying Trapple or whatever because it has religious quotes or messages on them. I got this one as a gift. It says John 3:16. Very good message. It says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that so that whoever believes in Him shall not perish, but have eternal life." So that's cool. That's that's cool. I like that. A nice reminder that that God loves me, and it's also a good kind of conversational piece, an icebreaker. You're using this knife in front of someone who's maybe not saved, and they go, "Well, what's John 3:16?" Well, you can start a conversation. Well, John 3:16 says this. It says that God loved the world so much that He gave His only Son so that we shall not perish but live. So good knife, good hand, good message. Both of these knives have a synthetic handle scale, which in the slip joint world, these aren't really called handle scales. I'm told that they're called covers. So that was a little bit different. So some minor differences between reviewing tactical knives and slip joint knives, and the terminology is a little bit different. But anyways, they're both synthetics. It's made from both of these knife handles are made from a material I think called Durlin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a synthetic. And this is smooth yellow, and this is a jigged white, which I really love that white color, and I love the fact that it's jigged. To me, it's beautiful. And they both have the same style of blades. I'll go ahead and open these up for you. They have what's Case calls a California clip. Why do they call it the California clip? Because they say it looks like the state of California. They both have the California clip and the spay blade. And interesting little side note about the spay blade. Usually these knives, this is a type of jackknife, which means that the two blades are on one side of the knife, and that's what makes it a jackknife. The spay blade, which now in recent time is usually kept razor sharp and used for utility tasks. But back in the day, I think the trapple was conceived around the 1920s, possibly a little bit before, maybe a little bit after. But I think that's the time period this knife was came up with, and the spay blade was used to castrate cattle, and you got this really subdued point so you don't actually puncture anything that you don't want to puncture, but it's used for castration. Most of us who carry case knives aren't castrating animals, so like I said, it's used as a utility knife. Both of these knives have pinched bow stools, which is this area right here where it's kind of literally pinched, but the cap is not. This is the cap. Most people refer, when they say bow stools, they're referring to both ends, but the research that I've done, that this is the bow stool and this is the cap, and the caps are not pinched. Both of these knives, I'll talk about the things that are similar about them, have very, very minute gaps between the springs and the liners. It's something that you could really only catch if you put this up to the light and then kind of move it back and forth, and got a little gap there and a gap there on both of these. Like I said, I'm pretty new to reviewing slip joints, but a lot of the things that people look for in slip joints, the hardcore collectors, they're very critical about these things. This is what separates a high quality slip joint to a quality slip joint. And those arguments about case knives, if they're the same knife that they used to be, are they the same brand as far as the quality is concerned? And I don't know. I don't own any vintage cases. The oldest case knife I own is from 2008, and I'll have to review that sometime because it's one of my favorites, or one of my most used case knives. And that's just something that hardcore collectors look for, gaps. Like I said, these gaps to you are not visible, but under close scrutiny, there are some gaps in between here. Everything else is, for the most part, flush, which is good. It's one of those small details that slip joint collectors look for. Like I said, this is synthetic, it's jigged. I think this is called the standard jig pattern. And let's talk about some of the things that make these two knives different. Or, hold up, let's talk about something else first. Let's talk about the finish on the springs. In the closed position, these springs are flush. But in the open position, the spring actually pokes out just a little bit, and it's not flush with the knife. This is another thing that separates a quality slip joint from a high quality slip joint. Now, most of you may know that case is the standard in slip joints. When you talk about slip joint knives, usually the conversation is, was it better than a case or is it not better than a case? This is one of the defects of this knife, is that it's not flush when you open the knife up on either blade. Same thing on this knife. When you open it, it's not flush. You can feel the raised portion. It's a little sharp. It's not sharp that it's going to cut you, but you can definitely feel it. While we're on this subject of the flush back springs, there is a little bit difference between this knife and this knife. This smaller case has a half stop, which is another thing that differentiates a cheap slip joint from a quality slip joint. The half stop is a safety mechanism, and It just, if you're using the blade and you put too much pressure on it, it stops right before it gets to your fingers. And when you have it in this opened position, it is definitely not flush. You can actually see the spring. Some of you may be thinking that I'm being too picky. I don't know. I'm pretty new at reviewing slip joints. But I've seen slip joints on the internet that have the half stop, but yet they'll still flush when they're opened at the half stop position. I don't think that's a common thing. I think that's like a custom slip joint quality feature that you get. So I don't think it's going to be something that you get on your average case. I think you see that a lot on the Tony Bose collaborations and slip joints. But that's something I wanted to point out. Again, on this knife, the raised lettering, or the lettering on John 3:16 is not flush, and I really don't expect it to be, but you can feel it. The pins are more or less flush. I'm thinking if you have problems with these pins, then you're being a little bit too picky. But something that Case does now that is seen as a lack of quality in their knives is that they glue the shields in. The vintage Case knives and the higher quality slip joint knives have their shields pinned in, and there's some hardcore Case collectors or slip joint collectors that say that if you use this knife and you use it a lot, that this shield may come out. This knife, however, does not have a half stop. It does not have a half stop. It's pretty much smooth until it gets to that catch point, and then it shuts. Another thing that I've learned about slip joints is that in a review of the serious slip joint collectors, there's something called the walk and talk. And the walk and talk is basically opening and closing the knife, and if it's making a noise or if it's gritty, and then the snap that it makes when you fully open or shut the knife. And as you can see, or hear, hopefully hear, when you open this knife, it has a good authoritative snap, which can be suggestive. What might be a good snap to some people might not be a good snap to another person. And as you can see, it's going to have a pretty good snap when you close. And you can also see that it doesn't have the half stop. It has a good snap. That means you have a strong spring, and it's going to be less likely that it's going to shut on your fingers. Another thing that I learned about when researching slip joints, that collectors refer to pull weight. Now, they literally don't measure the weight of the knife when you pull it open, but they have a scale called 1 to 10. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being basically really easy to open, possibly even free flowing or gravity, to 10 being a nail breaker, something that breaks your nails when you try to open it. This is also very suggestive, and I'm going to say on this trapper, it's probably going to be a 5 or a 6, in my opinion. I don't own a lot of slip joints. I have a traditional knife collection, but I don't have a whole lot of experience with slip joints. I have a couple of Victorinoxes and some friction photos and an old timer. And I'll show my traditional knife collection someday. But from what I'm able to gather and my guesstimate of the pull weight on this blade is that it's either a 5 or 6. This spade blade seems to be a little bit easier to open, but you also got to take into consideration where the nail nick or the nail mark is at. The nail nick on this one is in the middle of the blade, so it's going to take a little bit more strength to open it, and on this one is at the end of the blade, so it's you have more leverage on the knife. So I'd say maybe a 6 on this one and the 5 on the spay blade. On the pull weight, the mini case, I want to say it's about a 5 and 6 as well. Also taking into consideration that where the nail mark is at, or the nail nick, these are pretty easy to open. That's basically it. These are slip joints, which make them legal almost everywhere. And let's talk on the price of this one. This is the Case Sparex. Oh, Case Triple Sparex. The Sparex is a line of knives with this white Darlin jigged, and it cost me $35.95. So both of these are very affordable knives, and I think for the money you're getting a good product. Slip joints, depending on what brand, what quality, what blade steel, they range all over the board. You can get a $7 slip joint, or you can get a $150 or a $300 slip joint. So I think this is a good knife. I think this is a good knife. A little bit different from what I usually carry. I usually carry the high-speed, low-drag tactical knives that can be opened and closed with one hand. But as a lot of you may know, I'm a very nostalgic guy. I really love history. And I just woke up one day, it was like, you know what, I think I'm doing myself a disservice by not trying out traditional knives. And I decided to get into traditional knives after I got this one for Christmas. So that's what kind of prompted me to get this knife and look into other traditional style knives. That's about it. I hope y'all enjoyed this review. I hope it's up to slip joint collector standards. And I hope y'all have a nice day. I'm a Satsu 5 and I'm out.